Hello, this is now the 13th of March, and there is a news of today, only to show we have the 13th of March, and this is no good English, but it is necessary to speak in English. I had the experiment, no, the trying to do it bilingual, and it is not to give a good impression or to show myself from the nice side. It is to give you an idea that an information necessary for you is possibly included. And for me it is to ask where I lost track. It was not my idea to have the shifting of time with that many turmoil, and with you, not with you as well, I think. The Warsaw Pact and the North Atlantic Treaty, and then the falling of the Iron Curtain, with the reunification of the two parts of Germany, the eastern and the western. That gave many people, of course, enjoyment, that this tension between the two parts of Germany was not there anymore, but new problems arose. But everyone might remember, or should remember, that then the excuse, we have to do this first and other things have to wait, was heard, not only heard, but in the papers and so on, and believed. This man, I had him with the many others as a kind of member of the older generation, maybe two generations before me, and he was introduced, or he introduced himself, or answering my questions. Somehow his parents had a business. I think it was his parents or his relatives, and maybe it is a face, and it is a brother or one of the family. I'm not knowing it 100% sure, but the mountains, the picture, one Swiss mountain after the other, and he wanting to build miniature models of that, and maybe for the small railway matchbox wagons and locomotives. You understand, my English is not very good, but he says he's a businessman. With me, it was the idea to give my mother, she was looking for ideas, for business ideas, for business, you understand, business ideas. With me it was to do something good for the enjoyment and for the use, to make profit. And he was working on it. And my idea had been something of Europe to America. that is not reflecting the ugly, the dark side. I knew there had been the war, and then people getting crazy, becoming crazy, and killing each other. I was a little boy. Later I learned it was even worse. He was situated, I think, south of Breslau. This was not even Poland or Germany, but I think it could well be Czech Republic or Yugoslavia. And my English is not good, but it is necessary to give it nevertheless. He had expectations in my life. He thought I was talented. I was having that what he thought should be developed. But he was on the range of people on his side that others had been on the other side of the so-called wing. He I don't know on what side, but somehow he was a good artist, and he was having a remembrance of the old days. And then the religion, the false religion, it was false, or it had been false before, but then worse. And I was interested to know about my father, if he had known him. And I was looking for exceptions. I was maybe 4 years at that time, 3, 4 years, 5 years. And for you it is important to understand that it is for those who are interested in history. And I was raised in the age of the computer, personal computer, computers going to the market, microprocessors. There had been then Intel. Interestingly enough, the name reflecting not Intel, but the intelligence, the electronic intelligence. Of course, it is not magnification, but making it the opposite, very small and kind of the large micro, not enlarged, but micro, small making. And this now is of course embarrassing, but not too much. With him, he was like a grandfather, and me as a child, I was allowed to ask questions, and I had many of those. He was then, of course, for others, the artist. And the others, maybe on the other side of the whole spectrum, had been bankers and the professionals in merchandise. And with me it was my mother explaining me about a little bit of about the character, but I myself had to do my own judging. And I learned quite about the kind of people my father once had met. And I was interested very much. You understand, he was left in the war. I'm not only I had not only been regarded as an orphan of war. I really was, and it is now the very strange thing. This was like a secret, even in the environment. And this I'm urged to explain. I do not malign the environment. I'm not someone who is pesting the own home. In German, ich bin kein Nestbeschmutzer. This is important. I'm not someone putting dirt in my own home. I'm rather explaining. He was not in Europe anymore. My idea had been, I want something as a business idea, giving something good, a good picture of Europe, not Germany only. And this then we agreed. I can't say. He was asking, and my mother said, please ask my son. She said, my grandson, Enkel. This was for the outward world. And of course I had, and this was important. I think he understood. For security reasons, everyone was considering security of highest importance. Those having left Europe did it in part because of security. The old then breaking of character. The breaking of character that it was used, the war was used, and the regime had been like an evil idol. You understand? An idol is something leading away from that what is good. And he did not say he was a moralist, but I was trained to say what I think, and it was tolerance that he heard it. I was even testing that. And the business idea had been, and he said, I'm a businessman, of course, and I want art and like a message. Please do not forget Europe. It was important. I understood. People thought, and I did not know too many people. Those came to me hand-selected by my mother and others. Therefore, I did not know too much about society. I was raised quite not guarded, but with good care. And he did it then. Those as miniatures, and I think my idea had been, I don't know what came out of it, there had been too many people introduced to me. My mother had quite a network, and it was not single-minded. It had not been, as may be usual, from only one corner, but it had been he on one side, being the artist, and then the other, the more, as you might say, but I regarded him as serious as well, as a nobleman as well, but a little bit different character. And with me as a child, I thought I could prolong it. One generation was lost. I was born very late, and I did not even had met my father. I knew he could come home, not from combat, but it is sad from combat. It was the it was the saying, he is left in combat. I think he had already retired from any military duty for long. Later I learned, because of his old age, I stated about that in the other reflecting videos. And I'm not wanting to make this something of an argument. If he ever knew about me, little worm, yes, maybe he did. My mother had those possibilities. And it was to do the business of helping regardless. And it is like with the financial institutions, the banks, that those do it without looking at the face, looking rather at the business idea. And I think that this worked out. Later, the fairy tales from the Gebrüder Grimm, and it was like a message, without forgetting that you cannot bind up wounds that easy. But I was raised that hatred is no solution. It is no solution. Of course, I was not totally free. He had been in a group that was quite difficult. If that is right, what I remember, he was in a family with some brothers. And I already knew that I had a sibling that was a little bit, as others said, less talented. I thought he was especially of a character you could rely on in other regards, or in some other regard. Therefore, I was raised to accept everyone regardless of his ability or not ability. And somehow I thought he was someone sticking out. Nevertheless, the group could be quite quite interesting. Those artists, stuntmen, and animal trainers, I liked them. Somehow others had difficulties. But then my mother, as I said, had a whole network, and then that chain, that thread was lost. There was a change in the age. The age had been, as maybe you can see it, there the development of modern technology only as examples, you see. The whole storage thing, like ready access memory, and then the diskettes, the disks, later the hard drives, and I don't know if it was that my mother was like a kind of networking businesswoman. I did not know that under normal circumstances she should have had an income from it, but it was done somehow like you might expect it. Later I learned about it, and I concluded quite a lot now understanding she was doing that not to lose the contacts. The businessman looking for ideas and then looking for someone to finance it. And I liked it very much that he said, yes, I will take a photograph with this mountaintops, and I think those are Switzerlandish, from Helvetia, Switzerland, with Geneva and Zurich as capitals, and others. He was accepted as well as on, I do not want to say on the other side, I did not see it that way. And it is for me that you understand I have real insight, and I understood others had somehow conflict. But with me, the conflict was not there. I was learning, and as a little child, as maybe every child of that age, you are not in the conflict. Hopefully that is the same even today. We have 2025, and looking back, it did not work out as planned, but this time he had to leave Europe. It was that dangerous that quite often I heard he did not survive. Where did he die? And then those unheard of. And this was really a thing not mentioned too openly. I understood people lost humanity. And it was not described in words. I learned about it by understanding some things are of that nature that people shy, the people shun it. And this had been the case for a long time. And what is the difference? I thought my father gave me the idea the difference was his raising, being raised up, his mother. Or was it that he learned about people on the whole spectrum? Or was it his belief? He was somehow in a place, I don't know if it was as a boy, where he had, was it something like an artist's business? It could have been. And then I lost contact to the whole scene. It was from the 90s, 1990s, the time I had, I was looking back, very lucky to learn a little bit about how a business idea is developed, and that it is important to work your way into trusting someone. But it was with new accidents, new crushing. I did not learn too much about it. But having heard about the people that did not survive, that did not, as you might say, make it, but it was rather who did not survive, there was gladness to be alive, and then a new looking for the people. And you see, this is a topology of the natural world in a digital. This is from a book in a digital description. This is the topology where there is in the middle someone giving the network information. Somehow my mother had been working in this kind of topology. But then it was as well that, is it topology? Is it, this is German, topology. Maybe in English it is a little bit something else. My mother was in this kind of network. People came, not bound, not constantly bound, but someone gave the idea, the tip. In German, a tip is not a little bit money for something done. And now I understand, not living in a country In a country where English is in everyday use, this is of disadvantage. I'm for a very long time off any active conversation, but nevertheless I use English. It is important. My mother had been like a woman in the middle, and then those women in the middle could have been in a kind of similar or even that topology, and this was not known to me. I only learned by that what I experienced by being asked, and I felt being honored, and I was, that I was allowed to see how it worked. It worked. I don't know what was first, but then this Disney World, this was quite a business, and it was supported by those who wanted to have a kind of culture. And with that, I don't know what kind of culture. With some, it is a new culture. Some liked it and some not. But hopefully you understand, I was raised quite tolerant. And I was expecting the tolerance with others. I maybe got on their nerves. And those then had a little bit the father figure, and I was never being punished, but I was expecting it, and those did it to correct me. Therefore, I learned about people having the tradition to learn from others and to give others a helping hand. And later I understood I would be the one who give it to the next generation. Until now I couldn't do that. This is not school learning, and he wasn't there every day, of course not every day, but nevertheless I asked my mother and others, and then I understood the whole business, the film industry is a work of quite a network. You understand? I had been a boy in the background, and my parents had not been in any business. My father, the raising father that is, called Papa, he had been working as a salesman. Quite simple, as a quite hard-working salesman, selling trailers, you might say, Lastkraftwagen, or automobile. And the mama, she breastfed me, and my mutter, my grandmother, the great mother, that is grandmother, in another words, combination, she breastfed me as well. And this was quite strange, but I did not, she didn't do it that often. And I didn't understand that it was or was not strange or ordinary. And please understand, it had been the time people surviving the ordeal, not only the war, but this time of people not being humans in some regard. You understand that it is important then. The business of Disneyland, he was something like a head. I understood it from that what people spoke in the behind the stage scene, where my mother was not very deep in it, but I was curious and sad, of course, that he wasn't there anymore. And in the 70s, I had been not even in school, maybe a little bit in schooling. I had to go to school in an ordinary state school. Then I heard a little bit about the business going on, and it was, of course, overhearing, or not listening with eavesdropping, but asking. It had been in the interest of the educational system to have something like it, to have recreational businesses. I don't know how much it had been done, but without support, a businessman in that kind of area cannot survive, I think. It is known. And it had been nearly the same with writers, even newspaper journalists were regarded, and are regarded, hopefully, of being people to be supported somehow. And I never thought I would once ask that for me, myself. Of course, then the digital world gave possibilities. Not for everyone. This is a kind of, I don't know if you might say, a reflection of the different phases. Having met people from nearly every background before school, then later it was not that often. I liked people because of their character, not because of the faces. I remember that I thought the Scotsman, he was resembling me the most, but maybe he is only one of the Europeans. You see, those are different. Maybe Africa or the southern states, and those near China, there had been, but those had been moving all over the world. But in some areas, some of them were in the majority. You understand? This had been the world I was raised. And then later, I was not that pleased. This is a real photograph, and I do not want to nag those. I'm only stating with their faces being with those stickers, not being recognized, that those do not want me, maybe, but did not forbid me to give this in the open. She is resembling Mama, and he is most likely Papa himself. And this is strange. I did not like it too much. Papa, being a salesman, he was being expected to have nice clothes and to drive a car under normal circumstances we could not afford. That is not the car of the family, this is a car of the business owner. You see, and with me this was a beautiful appearance, but in reality, and this is not maligning this family, Papa was most likely of the same, but somehow not. But he would have tolerated my idea to have a different understanding of of being nice. Therefore, I think it is for you to understand, I was raised with that many cultures that understood it is the character that counts. And you see, this is India. I remember India, India is not all over the same, you understand? This is known for everyone who had a little bit schooling about the country. Those Indians or Indian-looking people, maybe Mexico. This is someone, of course, it is looking like a Chinese woman. That India most likely, and him, that Australia. I'm not following the idea not to explain that every country has its own character, but then differences very much inside of the country. Therefore, please do not put me in a box. Do not expect I'm putting you in a box. But with me it is of course the same, having understood he was from a group that with some people were regarded troublemakers. And I came from Germany. Therefore this country was a troublemaking country because of history. I liked him very much, and he entrusted me. He was like a father figure, and I did not learn too much about him because there was such a distance. And the parents were not even, I think, knowing who he was. This was an unspoken spoken of. Now this was not communicated, but it was common sense that, but is now decades away, that you do not tell the neighbors that someone with a business or with even a little bit more than a business had been visiting. And it was strange. Papa had been someone who was quite bold. If people came with a problem, Papa went with them and confronted city clerks or someone in the government. And Mama, and maybe if this is a girlfriend of Mama, I call them lookalikes. Those had been the same character of being bold and standing their ground. And somehow this worked out. But now I'm not being able to do this with politeness, but being bold, that means you go there and say, I now want answers. And I can't do that anymore because as an echo or as a reflection, I'm not only having the little scars, those are of no importance, but yes, I only scratches somehow. I cannot do that anymore, but there's a need to do so. I want to keep looking for that what I lost somehow because of the turmoil of time. He had come somehow south of, what is that? Bratislava. Some stated they believe it ought to be Breslau, and others said Wroclaw, and with me, Meeting Polish, I asked them, I do not want to lose the character. But those, I had to work it out. Those had been moved from the east and then came there. And even some Polish said it wasn't everything okay. And then for me it had been an evil spirit, or even worse, that had infiltrated government. And therefore it is not that I say it to please someone. With me, the enemy of the country had been in government. And this is, of course, not the ordinary, but I don't know how it is with others. Papa had been in the force, in the Wehrmacht, as a boy, 17 years old. With 17 years, he was drawn. And I asked him, he explained me a little bit, and I understood. I was very glad, of course, that I had not the trouble. I don't know what I had done, but fleeing would have been with a death penalty. Defending was without any use, with no use. It was not even the slightest possibility to win anything. But it was the war, totality and fascism, this a punishment from within, and then the bombs flying from above, below, the boys in the Hitler Youth defending, not knowing it in any other way. You understand? I learned about it, and the pedagogical being raised that way had been understood. You are alone, except looking all over the world and finding like-minded. This is very much important. This is a car standing in a road. There's of course place enough besides where it is going into the forest, and we had been there for recreational purposes, and I did this photograph to remember. I knew seeing something, I remember the whole atmosphere, and it had been strange with tension. It is reflecting stress, a stressful situation, but I knew that it had been because of the conflict going on after 1945. There had been the Allied forces. I did not know too much about that, what was going on with others, but it had been the 70s, and it had been the idea to make the government more reliable every day, and with my mother to do something to better the circumstances. There came people having questions about medicine, about the state insurance system, and unemployment had been a problem, and then looking for new things, even sporting equipment, and my mother, knowing how the industry, how the market is working, she was with quite knowledge. I did not know, my mother did. She is not in this picture. That she knew more than ordinary, I didn't know. But later I learned, and mostly more than about other people, she thought about the father that was missing. And believe it or not, but it was true, she was praying for him that he might come back from combat. I don't know if it had been combat. He knew the war was lost. And then the breaking of human rights to that point that it was not even known where the danger was. My mother said if he had known about that, what happened in the camps, he maybe might have gone a little bit down the road and even use more trying to free. But he didn't know. He had in a conversation stated, something's going on. And it is dangerous to go to the collecting places and then maybe in one of those camps it was calculated that too little food was brought there and no coffins, therefore it was strange. Where did the people go? And this is important, that he was alone. He was very much alone. And then this was communicated as a thing strange enough to be reported. I don't know if it went to the United Nations or to America. And it is of quite an importance as a background. And then people having survived, this is my mother and me. Me, a little boy, I was being raised to be satisfied. This is Christmas. And I remember the atmosphere. And strange things were all over the place. The conflict with the East was every day a nightmare, and we were glad that the war was over. And my mother always expressed the belief that it is now a very good thing to be very thankful that more than 30 years there had been no war, no conflict with weapons, one tank shooting at the other. And this is for those who had been raised to understand it had been a time where there had been other things more important and you waited. Now I came to the conclusion there was something, especially for me and for the others, and that had to wait as well. And then I now understand the people in America, those were coming back, and I was sad those went then over the ocean again, having found this country a better place. I think it had been, this could have been, I think, someone filling in for my mother. She was called because of her old age grandmother or because of her standing. And then this is an enlargement. The photograph is quite Interesting, this is one of the siblings, and I can remember he said, "Oh, it is not what I wanted, of course Christmas with presents," and we had a little bit. It wasn't poor. Me knowing about countries where even the housings had not been as I used to have it. It was clean, it was dry, it was not with health hazards. The water was of good quality and hopefully still is. You understand? Knowing about the world makes you someone being satisfied. But this is not a thing to give excuses. There are expectations. This was in between. I always stumbled across the good-looking things, and this is ordinary. You do not want to show conflict. With me it is not possible to go on that way, because the expectations, I now understand, were quite reasonable. Even my mama not on this world anymore, Papa not on this world anymore, those are there, or my sibling sister or his her girlfriend. And that is not anything I want to complain about. It is only to describe as a background that I was raised in a quite beautiful looking world. People knew, those in America knew, Europe had been very, very in turmoil, and America is a better place. Then I'm glad those came back and had a little bit offline networking. It was not the time of the internet. It was before, had been before, and there had been expectations for me to give it then, myself, to the next generation, and I couldn't do it till now. There had been even more than that. The man, one of the heads of the the Disney World, and this is a thing I'm recording. Maybe you are not interested. I like to follow the idea. What I got from the generation before me, I want to give to the next. The people from of old did it. He was raised with his, I don't know if it had been a father or an uncle. Those had a business, and those learned to be good, or even better, or the best in that kind of business those had. And the business my mother had been teaching me had been networking, to work between the line of finances and the businessman, to give work and income, but she did not explain that. This is my conclusion. And this is not government, this is private. And now me understanding, she didn't do it, and she was not explaining it, but she didn't do it because I ought to be a banker, or I was expected to be part of the government. I'm now coming to something else. You might conclude yourself. And this is very important. It is me explaining because this is in German, This is the name you have, and the name of my father, he had worked out himself with his father, and my mother, Father Fritz, John and Elsie. This name is not in use, not right now. I have another name starting with an N, but I could use that name, my mother said, but it is not in the papers right now. And it is important. This is the generation before me. Then there had been a gap. I was born very late. My mother did it as best as she could. She had very much trouble, as nearly everyone, or everyone. There had been that much destruction that it was from scratch, or even the rubble had to be moved away before being able to build up from zero. And this is the name, and it was ambivalent, or is that English? It was with contrast in itself. There had been the saying, you are not originally from this place. Refugees from the eastern parts of Germany, then a Polish government, with a Polish government. And I'm not doing it politically, but my mother had been very precise. And there had been the legal question, but with me as a child, it had been, I hope I was not that straining, getting at the nerves or on the nerves of the parent figures, or of the so-called friends, the acquaintances. It's important. It is about the good name of my parents, and there had been other parents. This is special, but it is not that important for you to understand. But me understanding, there is a legal side to it, and I now want to show you the side of giving it to the next generation. I received input about business ideas, how to. This was a lecture that you have an idea, you have an ethical idea with it as well, and then others are in support, like the schools, like the Ministry for Education, and Disney had been founded with the idea of giving role models. I don't know how much that is a role model. Hansel and Gretel, maybe being glad that your parents have enough income, not sending you in the forest to be on your own, to look out for yourself. Yes, it is in every fairy tale a pedagogical thing going with it. I'm not in pro and I'm not in contra of fairy tales. I'm only saying you dream. I did it. You dream of things you later would like your own. You would like to have your own. Sorry, that was bad grammar, but I leave it that way. It's important you understand, me being someone not representing myself as a role model, those I did not put in a box. I saw the many faces, not in one day, and that because being taken with businessmen who gave me the possibility to see that what my own father couldn't give me because he was not there anymore. My mother prayed that he might come back. He did not. But the expectation was there every day. I came home from school and said, is the grandfather, is the father, has he come home? Is he now there? And there had been a couch in case he would return, but he did not. And that is not to give you the idea to pity me. No. It is me rather giving you the idea that I understand it's not going as expected. But then the shifting of times in the moving together of the two parts of Germany, the so-called Deutsche Demokratische Republik, German Republic Democratic or Democratic Republic, the eastern part, and the Bundesrepublik, the so-called Western Germany. Those days have been turmoil, and then there was trouble, quite for a decade, and I'm now looking into it and understanding my mother had been in this topology, being there, and people came and came back and went to other places. She was a networking woman. And then my mother most likely had been in another kind of topology of the networking women, and she said that she had ladies in America thinking about support for television, and those had been most likely women, married women of leaders. And it's really true that there had been ideas to give the immigrants to the United States a kind of idea. I don't know how much it worked, but a little farm in the prairie had been one of those ideas. I understood it had been artificial, like a kind of modern tale, but not too much. And for a child, it is a dream, to dream about the surrounding, being in there yourself. With me, it had been important that I had somehow, with my idea, succeeded that the mountaintops of Europe, this of course Switzerland, had been there as a reflection of Europe. I myself, as a little child, I thought, hopefully those will not forget Europe, being over the ocean and then forget me. There's a song, My Boney is Over the Ocean. And this is a tale that it had been because there had been a loved one over the ocean and the other had been staying in Europe. And I felt like all my friends had been in America. This is a remembrance about my childhood. Maybe someone is there who is still remembering, because I lost connection. And I think it is not that I had any rightful ground to go after it till recently. To go after it, I mean to understand this is not to be accepted. The turmoil of time had been an excuse that people had other things in mind than culture or the networking because of the culture of supporting the next generation. And maybe I find something. And it is also, this is not this man, but it's also about blown by the wind or with the wind. This is no good English. And under normal circumstances, he was a role model with me, with others as well. And he somehow had been on the road, on the total other side, as most of the acquaintances. He was considered to be part of a group that that were rather good, reliable sailors, good, reliable businessmen in the network, I don't know of what. I remembered quite a bit. Some said this is a country, and then there had been ports or harbors, and there had been in every, this is land and this is a sea, and then there is a network of, I don't know, of salesmen. I don't know exactly what it was. Of travelsmen. Is it right? He was situated south of Yugoslavia, this Breslau or Wroclaw, and this had been quite, don't know if I might say conflict, but me as a boy, I was in favor of every good character I met, and he was, with me, he was a good character. He had been a good character. And all those conflicts in the business market, there had been, maybe this is one side, and then the other side, you see. There had been quite a distance. Maybe this is traditional, but I don't know. He had been traditional as well. I won't put him on a scale or on one side. And this was my being raised. I had my own point of view. And then there had been strict regulation in this house. But on the other side, no. It was the same. My mother had always said, the role model once said, in my kingdom everyone can try to be glad, to be happy in his own fashion. In meinem Reich kann jeder nach seiner eigenen Fassung selig sein. Or to try it. This is in German, what I said in English. In my kingdom, everyone is allowed to be happy in his own kind of, in his own way of life. This is, of course, not a good translation, but you understand. And this was practically the idea understood my mother had been teaching me. But it had to be with good values. Therefore, Disney had to be a company with good values, and I hope this had this will be the character in the future also. But I lost any contact, and it was not, what is it, blurred. I hope I could somehow get an idea, but it is not about him only, and it is not about this network only, but those have been part of it. And then it went over the ocean somewhere else. And they're the same, maybe even of that shape, network, travelsman chain of something. I don't know if it is salesman or little businessman. Or like in the fur company, there had been those selling equipment. But I don't know, maybe someone can help me, but this is one of the many, and it is now me first stating this is a true thing. This is bara background, true background, and this is not important. I somehow, this is not good German, but it is with me now understanding something was then happening that is not good. This is looking like schizophrenic. But it is not me that is having that illness, it had been the time. The whole situation for me, with me as a little child, I had been in the 70s, not even before 74, not even at school, in any schooling system, there had been an evil spirit, or worse, in the so-called Third Reich. And I was looking for eyewitnesses, and I asked quite often if my father or his father had been known, and he said that it was not custom to travel and to say to others who you are. It was the custom to travel incognito. Yes, even using other names. But my mother said that maybe those had an inn, something like a hotel or motel, or it was a place he once had been working. This is not schizophrenic, but it's looking like that. Please understand if you hear something about me. With me, this is then rather a horror story, understanding that others who had not the possibility to ask reliable people, it was then not possible to learn about the true ambitions of my mother and me. But this was necessary for security reasons. He was quite a man with conflict, as every businessman was having at that time. And with me as a little child, I'm still not knowing anything about it. But it is possible that it happened with him and others. And I heard people making accusations, accusing each other. It had been the time when one was looking for the other and understanding that people were still being looked for. Is he still alive, or has he lost his life in the war? Is he in a prison camp of prisoners of war? It had been the 70s. I was raised from 1967 to, officially I was born in 68, yes. I'm not arguing about that. Till 1900, the raising of my mother was quite long. Maybe 2002, then my mother left this earth, this world. The elder. The other, 2009. And there's me being born. And it had been the time where there had been the conflict in the foreground, Eastern, Western, and I was raised in the thinking, in the legal thinking of the West. And this is important, because he had been somehow with Eastern influence, but I don't know how much. And this is important, that in his thinking, I think, the head of the family was not necessarily in every case the owner of the whole city, for example, of the whole harbor or port. But it had then been into contract, but before without any writing. And I have no special case, but I understood because of him telling how it had been, the old customs, and then me wanting to know about the new ones. I used nearly every elder or every adult or every, yes, even children being older than me to ask, to have an education by what those already knew. And with me it is the same ambition to give it to the next generation. But my thinking is Western style. You understand? Western style. I have not, I think it is not even there, not the idea to have it the Eastern style. It is not even possible, because then a system has to be there. Today it would then be a company, a society who is contracted, who has house law, so to speak. With me it had always been, this is a German expression, that I was a single one, and even in the family, that not even parents or sisters are making business with me. And this is in this place not even being asked. But it had been in the 70s that it was a thing that was, as you might say, being brought to one level. Till then there had been the people moving from one fireplace to the other. And this was in Europe. It was before the time I had any right to buy something. You can legally start to buy, I think, goods in the shop. I don't know. Is it officially? I think 14. Then you are eingeschränkt geschäftsfähig. Then you have the legal right to do contracts. Before, I think it is with parents only. And then you are fully able to do business from the age of 18 onward. And this is important, but it had been in the raising of the next generation that he was, without being asked, everyone who had experienced was, it had been common that he or she was willing to answer questions about how the world is governed. And then there had been a little bit a different law, a business law in America than in Europe. And this is still the case, you understand? This is important that with me, and this is really with a serious background, the contracts, this is Verträge, the contracts written, not parents, and not others, except in situations where there is a written contract, that those are allowed to do it. You could say so if you do it with words. Of course, you can give someone the asking, please buy me something in the shop. You can do it. This is possible, but without, it isn't. And there is not the use of any private law. The time the Eastern people moved to this country, Germany, they came parts of, or families, they came something with them. Maybe the tradition that elders could do business for the clan or for the family. This is not in my case. And even with me, contracts before my age of 14 are only partly valid and not before 18, and this could even be 21. I come now, this is with a serious background, I come now, this is no good German, this is what my own being is concerned. Even me, before it was 1982, this is the official date, is, you see, and this of course later, any contract then would be according to the law in this place of the world, in this area of the world. It could be a different situation in other countries. This is important. I learned about some leaders, you would call them working kings. This is of course an artificial word. Do not think about someone living like with a crown. I don't know if this is a crown. No good idea to draw it that way. It is that I thought about the time, me as a child visiting other places. This in German Kinderbesuche I had. It had been that someone had this chancellor, Miss Merkel, as a friend, she said. I don't know if that was true, it had been a rumor, no, a legendary telling. Then someone else had been in this place. He was called the son of a diplomat, and this could have been the Putin family, the honorable Russian president. And I had been raised, this is very important, looking at the character, not at the country or the system. And this is important, that I will never follow the idea to be a basher of communism or a basher of capitalism. You understand? This is Germany, Eastern Germany. This is a drawing, not very good. This is East, this is West. There had been the Iron Curtain, and this is communism, and this is capitalism. You understand? Capitalism, no good writing, but you understand, it is with conflict. This is sign for conflict, like lightning. There's conflict. Conflict between East and West. This is a communism, capitalism. And I had myself, it was not even mentioned, the learning possibilities to have acquaintances with those you might call working, hard-working businessmen and women, being like kings, or even kings, or queen, and or queens. Is that possible? More than one? But it was not even mentioned. It could have been really the case. And then America is there with presidents, governors, and those are hardworking as well. But I had a conversation with those, for example, in California, who were looking at the industry and being for a day or two in a factory like Volkswagen, and then said, this is too much work. Be there and then working at that pace. It was rather understood. It is stressful working from 7 o'clock in the morning, for example, to 3 o'clock p.m. or starting at 10 to 7 p.m. You understand? Or even longer hours. And this is important for you to understand. It is not like in a fairy tale that a king or queen, I did not even recognize any of them. Later, I now calculated it could well have been the case. And it is for you important that you understand it is not like the papers say. And this is a real strange thing, that there had been the rumor a neighbor was privately a friend of a chancellor. And then what is that? Of interest or not? I don't know exactly. I'm only stating that then there had been in this part of the city a son. It had been 1936 1979. 1979. Quite a time. I don't know. Back then, the name was not there. But now I calculated it could have been someone from the family. And this was not even a question. It was not mentioned that there could have been kings or queens. That was not of too much interest. And it is not a fairy tale, it is rather a horror vision, because this, for some people, is conflict. I was not raised to be pro or contra. If this is a party, like in America, the Democrats against the Republicans, it is quite without any tension. This is mentioned and it is not that important. But in this part, there are several parties, SPD, CDU, and then FDP, and then the so-called blue AfD, and then Greens. And there's conflict right now with this. There had been with the Social Democrats, and those two together had been like fire and water sometimes. I don't know too much about the people in the surrounding, but if there had been those, even with acquaintances or friends of Mr. Putin, I would not had too much afterthoughts, pro or con. I'd rather think about the idea that hopefully there is no conflict. With me, it is not the group, but it is really true that I had been raised to look at the faces. If you're looking at those faces, you think it is stereotypes. Maybe the case. But with me it is rather me thinking this is the most likely to resemble me. You understand? It is about cultures, and then those are called races. The Caucasian, where is here, there. You would put me in that box, but it could well be in the former days, maybe 200 years ago, there could be forefathers in the nether. Someone said there could be a little black blood. I don't know if that is possible. You have heard about blue-blooded. In German, blaublütig. Yes, a little bit could be there, but what is that to me? Nothing. There had been the day that later was called the Dark Age of the Hitlerism, of the Third Reich, the days of the Third Reich. And this is not good English, and it is not my ambition to be in that kind of stuttering, but it is important for you to understand. This is asking again for you to understand it is not schizophrenic. It is not about, for example, Miss Merkel or Mr. Putin. Those had been in the papers, and now it is what? Now it had been in this part of the world, Mr. Scholz, and now the new Chancellor, CDU, this is SPD, and I'm not looking too much at the names of the parties. I'm of course being interested I'm looking for the change that could do that to me. And please do not expect too many change going out from me if you help me. It is rather a thing like sowing and reaping. The expectations could be that there is some possibility, like blown by the wind, was a reflection of the days where the party lifestyle then was gone. Maybe it is something like blown with the wind toward me, that there could be a new sowing and reaping. Therefore, please think about the possibility that you could help me to sow something, not only pedagogical, but maybe looking for opportunity. But this is to be done legally, and I don't know. I'm really not knowing. This is something what could come out of it. A book for schooling, and this is about the digital world that was there to have the data in a storage, and then to have data processing, automation, and to give it more security. The data was distributed in a distribution for redundancy. First across telephone network, and let me have a look in it, and then with a special media transmission. You see, this is a real environment. This is a company. You see, several duties, all working with data. I don't know if I find something. This is about motivation. To motivate, to give a drive. For example, why is a work ethic important? Or what is important to have some of it? To have any ethical ambition. This is culture. No good English. This is not to give you an idea to learn English with me. And the whole book is about the computer, and that in a network. With me understanding a little bit about it, the human network was the ground, the reason to have something that is supportive. The real physical network, the network of humans, was to be modeled, was to be rebuilt in a digital area. The whole idea is easy. It is about humans and a better living environment, a better welfare. As it is in the United States, for the common welfare Now understanding it is the same again, but I do not want to complain. Sitting before the monitor, I think about the possibility that there are some who are not liking the idea that I want to find out things. That have even, oh sorry, this is not the sign, it is that I have my hands there, and little scars, not too much. I myself met people having lost a limb in combat. Therefore, I'm a very strong supporter of diplomacy. And people had been working in it without any education out of the necessity. And my mother had been asked if she had an idea what someone could do. People came and asked for business ideas. And with me as a child, this is true, I wanted to, as a very young lad, or even as a little, not a baby anymore, but not at school, maybe 3, 4 years old, or 2 years, that started. And one of the first things, and this is my mother, me being maybe 14 years old, 15, she asked me to take this photograph. This is a print scanned from a photo I took, and I can remember the circumstance. She said, please make a photograph of me, and I will look this way, she said. And for me it is important to remember that she had expectations, and I have not forgotten. Maybe a little bit more about the other expectations, and then understood and took into my portfolio in my own wishful agenda. And it is still there. Some areas of the country where those are living, with clothes on, of course, still having similar faces like this picture is showing. Hopefully I can find some strings. And there are no strings attached except those who are there. You understand what I mean? Strings attached, always there's something attached. But no hidden agendas except those I don't know. The destruction of World War II, the destruction of everything else that had been criminally done, that was not a little thing. My mother understood. The dignity had been touched, and people left Europe, and most of those we knew and communicated about had been in the United States, doing business over there. And for those I had the idea not to forget. Those had not been that far, and I remember this culture had been a little bit more polite. I understood it had been in my view, a little bit more easier there. But was it my childish idea? This is something visitors take home. Later I understood people moved from there overseas as well, taking with them the culture or forgetting. I don't know. With me it is my mother. She's not on this earth anymore. She is now there on this photograph, and I'm thinking about it. Not to forget, there had been something left, and I don't know what it is. I have an idea, but I need others not to forget. This this good educator, I might say, he was not asked to be an educator. I did it with nearly every man or woman who had been there. I was asking, I was allowed to ask questions, and I understood, if you do something, keep on doing it and learning to do it better. Therefore, I'm following the idea to find out. Most likely, it was something others knew, and I want to look for it, but I'm not looking for trouble. He had conflict, as in every field of business. There's conflict totally inside of what is to be expected. But mostly you better understand, as I did already, it is not that easy to persuade people to look into something that could change the use that is already there. And I understand myself that it is quite strainful to put something into use. If there is, for example, a piece of land, then a plan is to be made. Then look out for people who could work on it. People back then, in the 70s, had been looking for others. I was much too small, as nearly a baby, to work on it myself. But others had to be persuaded, for example, to come back to Europe. Right now I don't know if anything is coming out of it. I don't know. And this is a reflection video, and it is now 1 hour 48 minutes, and it is over midnight. Please be cautious not to expect too much, maybe nothing. First, it is blown with the wind. This movie somehow had been a whole project. Not only the book, but then the movie was planned with fundraising, and then with a whole marketing project going alongside, and then I think it had been successful, but not with one or two, but with a whole group of people, technicians working in the camera business, and then was it digital or had it analog cutting? I think analog, but with special effects drawn on glass. You see, I cannot promise anything. It is, first of all, to look what to sow. He was quite successful because others put things together, and the conflict had been there. One, I don't know how many, at least one I heard about. Hopefully it was without too much stress. But the movies, Disney movies, had been there? What is with Old Yeller? I thought I had been once, maybe it was with a dog. Was it once involved? Was it looking for an animal trainer? In the process of bringing a movie idea to the market, there is training and looking for trainers and looking for the right people working on it. There had been animal trainers as well. And again, I met people having somehow along the road, most likely having met my father. Therefore, I was interested. But this was the kind of business relationship from of old. It had been some business relationships not being common. But there had been a filming industry before the war, and where had been the first? Was it Charlie Chaplin? The people from of old had some stories, and I learned from it how people work their way from the idea, the planning, through the planning process, and I'm now feeling on the level of the vision making. But first I want to catch on. Thank you very much. 1 hour 52. Let me show you a little bit of today, that you understand. It is a work in the process. Thursday, the 13th. This is in German because my location is in the Federal Republic. And let me look. This is let me look a little bit at the US news. No, it's not working. Oh, those are La Palma news. Earthquakes. Oh. The Canary Islands. Is it the name in English, like in German? Kanarische Insel? Tenerife, Gran Canaria? Yeah. Hopefully with you everything is okay. Thank you very much for your interest, and please excuse me, this is done. Me being not used to have any communication in English, this is important to understand. It is not me giving it a casual approach. It is that I need to do it that way, that you do not expect me to do something right now. It is ground zero in some regard, and this is an OSI model, you see. It is not even the first layer. I'm looking for the information to transfer. Then it is through the layers, so to speak. And first of all, I'm not into politics, not at all. This is now, I'm writing it down, the date of today. Oh, Friday, 14th. And this collage shows you the symbolic photograph of my father. This has been taken, my mother said, in the Netherlands. She was having a time there in her own education. This is my mother not being very healthy. This is a look-alike. This is not very honorable to put this together, but it is a working detective collage for me to remember. Like a detective does it, he is gluing things together to raise remembrance, to awaken thoughts, remembrance, like I'm doing right now, uncut, and without knowing what exactly is coming out of it. And now let me look at the album again. I'm not having very much. Oh, let me have. This is remembering one of the few visits in a recreation facility, me in the boat, you see. And this had been extraordinary, not the ordinary. And now I'm thinking about why was that only 2-3 times in my whole life that there had been a visit in such a recreation park. Then a photograph had been taken. It is now looking like someone had asked to have a photograph of me. And I can remember that some abroad or even in foreign countries had been asking. And then it was quiet again. I do not want to give you the idea. I'm not looking for suspects. I'd rather do not want to think about the possibility that something's going wrong, but it is strange. Looking for old immigrants from Germany to other parts, from Europe, from the EU. Thank you very much, and hopefully you are not disgusted that I'm not doing it better, but it is even that I want to show. It is ground zero, and I'm now, for me it is ground zero, and I'm now expecting some interest that is helping me to go into the right direction. It is like a crossroad, and I want input to understand what to do next. Thank you very much.